Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on the ice, brought to you by Case Financial Group, Toby Hockey, the boys at Doak Spoke Fuels, and the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy. Wayne Kosior, a little bit deeper in the snow, a little bit deeper in his book we talked about last week. But today we're going to talk a little bit more about what we've covered earlier in this, I guess, late spring, early summer, and that's the NCAA portal, because we're right in the middle of it right now, and all the teams have pretty much set up their rosters. Wayne, what do you think is the fallout or the takeaway from this year that's given or granted certain players special permission to play an extra year?
Well, I think the obvious fallout and impact on players that are in the funnel to go into college are, in a lot of cases getting pushed backwards just because of those fifth-year guys taking up some spots and, not only taking up spots on their previous team, but they're also moving into, other teams that maybe a kid that was going to come in as a freshman this year is maybe being pushed back a year, or in some cases, those kids are choosing to go into the transfer portal themselves and transferring completely to a different college. So I think that's the biggest impact that it's going to have, is just pushing people back a bit. And, like I say, it could make some players second guess whether they want to go that college road or not, I guess, too.
It was funny to me, or not funny to me, but it was interesting to read that certain leagues, specifically the Ivy League, doesn't allow for a fifth year of eligibility. So all of those seniors that lost their year last year of a 4-year degree aren't able to play for their prospective Ivy League program. So if they were still playing or wanted to play in the NCAA, they'd have to be in that portal and transfer to a completely different team regardless, because the Ivy League didn't change their ruling whatsoever.
Interesting. I mean, I wasn't even honestly aware myself of that specific rule. It's hard to keep up. I mean, it's changing daily and stuff. But
well, that's exactly it. I mean, there was 154 players in September in the NCAA hockey portal, which is by far the most they've seen in recent history. Now, this is obviously just a interim ruling. What is the long-term effect of this, or when do we see, for lack of a better term, a return to normal, Wayne, on, portal numbers coming down, less transfers happening between teams, obviously not needing a waiver that year off of eligibility, because once you do enter a portal, there are limitations to you playing or not. Do we see some of these perspective or some of these rule changes staying, or how long will it take? Give me some of your understanding to that.
Sure. I mean, my opinion, I mean, obviously this year is going to have the biggest impact, and I think it should continue to normalize every year thereafter that. Obviously, just it's a shock to the system when you have that many players getting an extra year of eligibility. It really, skews the funnel, I guess, for lack of a better term and stuff. And I think longer term, as a freshman is coming in, obviously there's, if he does make it in, there's minimal impact to him, and it will be minimal impact going forward and everybody after him. So it's mainly the people that are, in the system or that were supposed to go in this year that didn't get in. I don't think it's going to, have the impact of, say, changing the mind of many, if any, players that they'll say that, I'm going to go the Western Canada or Western Hockey League route versus NCAA just as a result of that. I mean, I just think it's one more factor in the list of many factors that a player and his family and their advisor have to give consideration to when they're making that decision of which route to go.
So I'm going to get you to put your scouting / advising hat on now, Wayne, because I'm going to give you a scenario. That player plays his, third year, his junior year in Div 1 hockey. He doesn't have a chance to play senior. He has to choose whether or not, can he go the USHL route? Can he go back to the Western League? Or can he make himself available to the NHL draft if he's that good?
There should be, just on the surface, there should be no problem, in my opinion, to go any of those routes type thing and stuff, because, most of those leagues just don't allow you to go back if you've signed a professional contract. So, there should be those options to do that. But, somebody that's playing, if they're, third year, they'd have lots of options, I guess, type thing, and I have to really dig into all the finer rules and regulations. But, there will still be opportunities for those guys. And, anybody that does have a good advisor, and there's lots of good advisors out there, if they don't know off the top of their head, they just might be able to dig into it and, skim through the rules and regulations. And again, as I stated, they're continually changing. So, I mean, you really got to, be diligent about keeping on top of those things.
One thing you and I haven't really discussed much, and that's the academic side of going to the collegiate route. Now, for these players that do go into a transfer portal or decide to take a year off, they're also taking into account their academic calendar and their options of finishing a degree or completing a degree within that 3 or 4 year span and extending that time. Do you think that that's on the mind of some of these players, or is it something where they just say, my focus is going to be hockey now, and I can come back to the university or back to the U and finish my scholastic records and get that degree at a later date? Or do you feel that this is more of a decision that needs to be done, and maybe it's telling certain players, okay, let's hang the skates up and let's really finish this academic side of things and move on with the next start of life?
Yeah, I think anybody that's at that stage in their career is probably going to continue on. And I mean, is everybody going to finish a degree? No. I mean, even those that kind of play 4 years in a lot of cases maybe don't necessarily finish their degree. And, that's, again, another one of those little known facts that, not everybody hears or knows about, just like, decommitments to various colleges that, players maybe never go into the college that they commit to, or, potentially don't even go to college hockey type thing and stuff. So this would be just another one of those things. But I think the vast majority, and it'd be a high percentage, would continue on through and finish their degree and pursue their hockey to the highest levels they can. And I believe that is one advantage of the NCAA route, is that ultimately you do get to play hockey at a high level, get your degree at the same time, and that's extremely challenging to do that. But then it gives you that flexibility to then just go on and try play pro hockey. And you'll see a lot of these collegiate guys, some will sign NHL deals, some will sign American Hockey League deals or two-way deals between the American Hockey League and the East Coast League. And you really see a lot of them end up in the East Coast League. And it's because they got their degrees so they can play around for a couple of years. Anyone that knows anything about hockey knows you don't make much of any money in the East Coast League, and it's hard on your body. So it's something you have to give some serious consideration to if you're willing to, sacrifice your body to play at that level.
One part of this portal change or this temporary rule change has been the waivers that have been allowing players to not skip out on a year of eligibility and allow them to continue to play. Does the NCAA hockey program have to look at that and say something we should adopt for years to come, as opposed to just keeping it for temporary use? Because we're seeing that, there isn't the right fit for certain players. There isn't the right room for players on certain teams. Why should we be penalizing a player for their change in mood or their change in their decision and wanting to play elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. And I guess that's, we always try to think of positives that come out of these negative things, and, the negative thing being the COVID pandemic. But again, it's changed the way people think. And we were forced in a lot of ways to change the way we think and some of the rules and regulations. And, one you cite by giving them that extra year of eligibility. And sometimes new and innovative ways and rules come out of that, because they say, geez, maybe this is an okay idea and we should try going forward, that to give the player flexibility to, transfer to a new team if it's not the right fit, and not penalize them by making them sit out for a year. So, I can't comment how the NCAA is thinking, but, I'm sure all those things are being discussed at the boardroom table.
In last question before we go to our Wayne's hot takes tonight, Wayne, have you seen a change or an influx of players because they're in the transfer portal moving to the USHL or moving into other leagues that aren't collegiate?
I'm personally not aware of any myself. Again, that's not saying that somebody hasn't done that, but I mean, obviously, just a lot of changing teams within the collegiate level type thing. A lot of players moving around, and I mean, I know of one player specifically that I won't go into details, but did leave the NCAA and is now playing C Sports in Canada West Division for hockey and stuff, and doing real well and enjoying it and stuff like that. And so, again, I think it's a move that it's a shock for somebody at first when it happens, but I think in the long run, it's all worked out well, and I'm sure it will work out long term also.
Certainly, like we've always said, you cannot take your education away from someone once you attain it. So if you are in that position, do consider your options, of course, before you make any rash decisions. Think about your future. Speaking of
Right.
future, we're going to get into the Wayne's hot takes. 2 questions for Wayne. We're going to banter a little bit. I'm going to give him a 90-second window, or a little bit less, because I got to get in a couple words. But our first one tonight, Wayne, it's involving a Connor. Which one are you taking? You taking Bedard? Or are you taking Geeky? Or are you taking a Savoy? The timer starts now.
Okay, I mean, I'm going to take Connor Bedard, and the reason why, I mean, number one is Savoy and Geeky are both 04, so they're a year older, so they're obviously going to be better. They're also playing on a much stronger team in the Winnipeg Ice, so that's going to certainly inflate their numbers, and they're certainly doing extremely well, extremely talented, but again, I think they are benefiting from the extremely strong team and being a year older. Connor Bedard is still in 05, playing on a relatively weak team. I'll say he's surrounded by them, and so that's challenging him. Kid still has incredible skills, and the sky's the limit for this kid if he continues to develop and stuff like that. But again, all three of those players that you mentioned are extremely great talents. They're probably all going to play in the NHL, but I'm going to stick with Connor Bedard, not just because he's from or playing here in Regina.
You're taking the local guy. I'll take my local guy from Strathclyde, Manitoba, Connor Geeky, but also not a line mate, but a teammate, Matt Savoy, because the two of them haven't played on the line together unless it's power play time. And 29 points and 23 respectively for Savoy and Geeky. Truly a great tandem for what I'm hoping for at least another year. I mean, I'd love to see those guys, really perform. And you're right. I mean, the culture and that environment of the ice compared to the Pats. Winnipeg Ice are number 2 ranked in CHL rankings this week with only 1 loss. I mean, they're 16-1, which is unheard of. I mean, the Edmonton Oil Kings are right behind it, but they're still really close to each other. So, nonetheless, there it is. That'll be our hot take number 1. He took Bedard. I took Geeky. Now, for number 2, this is more up Wayne's alley because he's got his eye on this thing happening next month. And hot take number 2 is, are we ready for a Bantam WHL draft in December?
And again, I'll take the view of a WHL GM or scout, and I would say, they're liking this. I mean, it's given them an extra time to view the prospects from that 06 birth year, allowing them to play at the next level. Typically, playing their first year of midget AAA, or if they're playing the Canadians Classic, the next higher level. And so they'll get to see how those kids matured in extra 6 months and played at the next level. And so I think it really gives the GMs and scouts a great opportunity to better assess those kids and, be interesting 3-4 years down the line when we actually can judge how these kids all turned out, if there was more accuracy in this 2021 draft in December than there is in a typical May draft.
I think this draft in particular, Wayne, is going to be the most open draft we will see because the intangibles and the unknowns are going to be highlighted to the extreme. Obviously, a draft in December compared to when it normally occurs after a COVID season, midway through a season, seeing players excel in their first half of a regular season compared to their second half. A lot of intangibles for scouts and advisors and organizations to think about. But then we also have to look at these kids are 15 years old. What are we really drafting? And I talked to my 9-year-old about this. It's all about the potential. I mean, sure, you're going to have those unbelievable players that are no-brainers. But when it gets into round 2 to round 7, and you're going to be looking at those other factors that we talked about last weekend as being important calls to not only a draft, but also just looking at it and saying, okay, maybe we got the right guy, maybe we don't. So we'll leave it at that. That's Wayne Kosior from Wayne's World, our 2 hot takes today. If you have a hot take for us, do shout out at us. Give us a message. Follow us on our YouTube page or our Facebook page at ASTV Productions, amateursports.tv. Coming up next, Kyle Nixon is going to join us up for part 2. They're taking the team to Medicine Hat, Alberta. They might pass Wayne on Thursday. Hopefully the weather's okay, and they're going to continue for a couple of games in Medicine Hat. We'll join Wayne again next Tuesday. Wayne, thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of the evening.
Thanks, Theo. You too.
Right on. Like I said, we'll be back with our friend Kyle Nixon, head coach of the U15 program. Stay with us here on the ice. Welcome to Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Blackjack Stewart Arena, home of the Buffalo, is inside the 46,000 square foot complex, as well as a curling rink and other facilities. The students have a unique combination of successful, well-rounded education at Pilot Mountain Collegiate Institute and the professional hockey training in an encouraging community. The years of experience of on-ice coaching propel our students to the next level, both mentally and physically, in a professional environment. Joining us now, Kyle Nixon, head coach of the U15s. Kyle, good evening. How you doing? How's the snow down in Pilot Mountain? A little bit weird of a weekend.
Yeah, it turned into winter pretty quickly, so we're right into the thick of things now. That's for sure.
Does it feel more like hockey now that there's snow on the ground?
Yeah, I'd say it's safe to say hockey feels a little bit more normal. Although I'm always a fan of going to the rink in shorts, so it feels like hockey season. But we were pretty fortunate for a while to stay away from the heart of winter. But it's here now.
I'm not going to lie. Our Thursday guest is a friend of mine from SoCal, and we reminisced about wearing shorts to the rink and carrying our warm-ups in our bags. And yes, I missed the palm trees, of course. Kyle, no palm trees in Pilot Mountain, but we did have a couple of games against Prairie. Kind of like a one-win, one-loss scenario. What are your takeaways from those couple of games over the weekend?
Yeah, well, the message is still similar to what we've talked about the last couple of months. We just want to be competitive, and I think for us to learn what it takes to win in those situations is a big part of the development. So for us to win in regulation in our first game on Saturday was positive. We actually played quite well on Sunday too. We just kind of lost the special teams battles. We scored first, and the game was close, and then just couldn't kind of make our way back. So overall, a lot more good than bad this weekend.
Absolutely, a 4-3 win on Saturday. What was it like after the 60 minutes? The boys coming back in the locker room. What was the feeling like playing like that, getting the W, but also playing in front of the hometown?
I think for our guys to practice all week and be told if they do certain things, it'll give us a chance to be successful, and then actually see those things pay off. It doesn't always mean you win, but for us to have that happen in our first game, there was some confidence in our room, and then some excitement, and just the positive energy, I think is a huge help for us moving forward. So that was a big part of Saturday. We tried to carry it into Sunday, and we did. We had good energy and played fairly decent. They scored a couple of power play goals and kind of a backbreaker shorthanded where we had a pretty good power play going, just couldn't bury, and then that was kind of the difference.
Is there a certain strategy or a style that you play on the PK and the power play that has worked for you this season, or something you think you might want to change upcoming games?
We're still even working at getting as many guys involved in those situations as possible. I think for everybody up until Christmas, trying to give guys opportunities in different game scenarios is a big part of their development. So we're mixing and matching guys, giving different looks based on sort of who's kind of going, who's healthy, who's fresh within a game. And we're just trying to give guys opportunities to show off some of their skills and their strengths. And maybe the back half of the season, we really nail down power play units and penalty kill guys. But for right now, we're just trying to give guys as many opportunities as possible.
Certainly have to do that, because with a long season or a longer season comes injuries. How is the injury report looking for the team so far heading into this upcoming weekend?
Well, we had our full lineup on Sunday, which was good. One of our goalies is a little bit banged up this week, but I think should be okay. So potentially we could have all our guys ready to go for the weekend. So that's not something we've had all year, and would be nice to have. We're going to play 5 games in 4 days out in Medicine Hat.
Let's get into that weekend, because it's going to happen pretty soon. On the bus Thursday, heading out to Medicine Hat.
We're going to go halfway on Wednesday. So we're going to leave right after school tomorrow, get to Regina, do a little team meal in the morning, and then make it the rest of the way. We don't play till 5 o'clock, but that's a long way to go in one day. So hopefully if we break it up into two kind of separate trips, we can shake the bus legs a little bit easier.
I was going to say the bus legs should be shaken out with a little team activity outdoors. Maybe a snowball fight, or maybe a pushing of a sled, perhaps in Regina.
Yeah, I mean,
Kyle, 5 games in 4 days. How do you prepare as a coach to make sure your team is ready for each game, or is it something you do game by game?
yeah, I mean, we're not gonna. We play Prairie again right off the bat, so there's some familiarity there, and we can maybe make a few little adjustments or make a bit of a game plan. But we're gonna be playing teams that we might not see the rest of the year, and definitely haven't seen to this point. So we're just gonna focus on trying to make ourselves better based on some of the stuff that we work on in practice consistently, and try to catch up to the pace that we might have to play at this weekend. And if we do that, I think every game is going to be a learning experience. So we don't have a big weekend plan. We'll get ready for our first game and then kind of get an idea of what we've got ourselves into, and definitely just take it game by game.
I like how you say what you get ourselves into, because you don't know until you get there, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're going to be playing AAA teams from Alberta and Saskatchewan, and teams that we don't know them and they don't know us. So um, it'll just be it'll be kind of a learning experience shift by shift.
When it comes to playing other teams that are non-CSSHL, would you rather take the play to them and control that kind of destiny? Or do you want to, is that first 5, 10 minutes just enough time to get that feeling out process finished with and say, okay, boys, here we go, let's play our game?
Yeah, I don't think we want to wait around and just kind of see what level we have to get to. We want to come out in the first 5, 10 minutes and try to set the tone and set the pace. And if it's a team that has a lot of speed and skill, then we might have to make some adjustments. If it's a team that has some size and plays a more physical game, then we can adjust after that. But we want the teams we play have to adjust to us a little bit too. So I think the first period is against teams we've never seen before or might not see again. We really just want to play our best and then kind of see where that sets up.
How's the team chemistry wise off the ice? Are they looking forward to another long weekend in Alberta?
Yeah, our bus trips have been relatively short for us for the most part, so it'll be a whole new experience leaving in the middle of the week, getting as many games as we're going to play in a short period of time, being in a hotel. The bus trip to Alberta is significantly further than just heading to Regina and to Moose Jaw, so all of those things will be a new experience, which I think is good because the following weekend we go straight back to Calgary for our first showcase. So I think this whole weekend sets up well for what we're going to have to do moving forward.
You couldn't convince Rod and the crew to keep you in Alberta for just 2 weeks in a row?
I'm not sure if that would have been the best play in terms of being student athletes either, and being organized to try and figure out some things at practice too. So I think coming home and then going back is actually probably the best case for us.
It's a good kind of reset button, hitting the easy button and get a couple days back, correct?
Yeah, for sure. They need to get back and kind of be in some familiar surroundings, and hopefully we can have a couple good practices. Might be a little bit slower paced or more structured, but just kind of get back and get organized, and then we can head back to Alberta and see how that goes.
Kyle, recall your playing days. Have you ever played in a weekend where you have this many games in this many days?
I feel like as a minor hockey player, tournaments were a big part of the way that I grew up, and I think I can remember playing 2 games in a day and leaving my gear on for half the day. If you just kind of sit one game off, and in a small town where I grew up, lots of times we went to those tournaments with, I don't know, playing 3D or 4D at times. So I think it's good for these kids to push themselves physically, and when you start to get tired, you got to focus more mentally. So those things will all kind of play out this weekend, I think, too, which you can't practice those things. So I think that's important.
How do you maintain the intensity over a 4 game set, knowing that as a player you got 5 games, sorry, in 4 days, but do you keep a little bit of reserve in the tank, knowing that you got a next one coming up and a next one after that, and so on?
We're hoping this weekend we can have an opportunity to really just roll our lines as much as possible and keep everybody engaged. And I think that'll be a big part of it. Guys should know that they're going to get lots of opportunities to be on the ice and in game situations. So hopefully that's exciting. And I think for us, the fact that we practice all week, even for me as a coach, like I'm always excited to go to the rink and prepare for a game because it's a lot different than when you practice. So For us to play games, just the fact that you're playing another team and somebody's keeping score and the whole competitive element to it, I mean, that's the message we try to send, that these kids are in a fortunate, lucky position. And for me, that's fun. That should be what it's all about. So that's kind of the message we try to send.
Fabulous. You and Coach Kells will be looking forward to these upcoming games. Does it help that these games are non-showcase games? I mean, I don't want to say they're exhibition in some way, but they're a way to evaluate your team with a different opponent.
Yeah, that's exactly the positive part of going to this tournament is we're going to see teams at the same caliber or better than what we play consistently. But then at the same time, it doesn't reflect in our standings to where we're going to set up our schedule for showcases and what we're trying to work towards as we get into the second half of the year. So guys will get a good opportunity to develop and give us a chance to really roll guys out there in as many situations as possible. And it'll be a little bit of a different mindset than when we play our regular season league games.
Not that I want to throw a wrinkle to the game plan, Coach, but have you ever moved defensemen and forwards and back and forth in between positions, or is it too early to do that? Do want to throw that wrinkle out.
I think for us right now, just because guys in their spots still have so much to learn in terms of just handling the physicality, handling the speed, understanding the different responsibilities of their position, I think to mix guys around into different spots might confuse them almost. So there's a lot of learning that still has to happen, and in the positions that they're at right now, everybody's got to improve. So we'll probably just stick with what we've got for at least for this weekend, and probably even head into Christmas until maybe we'll make some adjustments or mix the lines up or get guys in some different spots. But for right now, everybody's got a lot to learn in their roles, so we'll probably just stick with what we're doing.
No doubt. Before I let you go, Kyle, how was geography class last time I talked to you? I know we talked about certain players that are all over this wonderful world of ours. What is on the docket for you in terms of study hall with the kids on the road trip?
Yeah, that's actually something that's gone into the planning process. We've missed a limited amount of school, which is good. So I've been trying to prepare some stuff for my grade 8 so that we can spend time in between games, set up something at the hotel where we have a little school study session. And same thing with the grade 9s that I don't teach directly, but tried to talk to their teachers a little bit this week so that they can be held accountable for school on the road. And I think that's going to be a big part of this too. They haven't had to experience too much of that yet because we've kind of just missed an afternoon or just a Friday. And this will be a whole new part of it to try and remember that school is still a thing even while you're playing hockey.
Ice bags and heat bags, contrast and textbooks. Looks like it'll be a busy weekend. 5 games in 4 days for the U15 team. A bit of an exhibition tournament in Medicine Hat. Kyle, thanks for your time. I know you got to pack some bags for tomorrow. Good luck this weekend, and we look forward to hearing and seeing how the team does.
Thanks a lot, Theo.
My pleasure. This is Kyle Nixon along with us, bringing more goodness to the greatness here on ASTV. Thanks to our sponsors listed below. And, of course, follow the Pilot Mount Hockey Academy on their website, pilotmounthockeyacademy.com, for all the results and the statistics up to date for the upcoming weekend. Thanks for watching. Take care of your neighbors and have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye for now.